Okay, briefly, we have a Dell 3010 motherboard. It is a 24-pin power connector. Okay, and briefly, it has a beep code. Beep codes 1, 3, and 2. I'll find out. Is it 1, 3? Okay, it is 2, 3, and 1. That is teet, 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 teet. So that is 3. I mean, that is 3 times that by 2, 3, and 1 beep codes. So now, this laptop, I mean, this motherboard, one, it's not displaying. I think that is connection problem, but not what. But the good thing is it has a beeper. It has an internal microphone. So even if you don't have, there's one which is inbuilt permanently. You can get another one, but we are so lucky. We have this one here. Okay. Okay, this one, it has, I have applied thermopaste. I have been using this. Okay, thermopaste. This is red grease, which melts at or solidifies at 600 degrees. Its specifications. That is heavy duty machinery grease, but it's working perfectly well. You see, I have set the fan, but is not in contact. These are towers on which to stand. I have cut them according to where they can see, according to the holes that it can provide, the accommodations it can provide for the capacitors, the what, and everything. Okay, so that it can sit well. Okay, you can see it now. These beep codes, I have found out, researched and found that it is RAM issue. Okay, you can see how that RAM is seated. You look at that white thing. Okay, it is seated perfectly, but I'm finding that one is a little off. In fact, if you're on camera, it is way off. Okay, it is not seated well like this one, so which confirms the problem. So now I'm trying to help you to understand when these beep codes come up, and they can have powerful meaning. So it's not connected, it's not connecting on the screen. Well, that happens sometimes. Okay, but you can see the RAM, it beeped thrice, and uh, physically, by inspection, it is showing you that the RAM is not seated, whereby it's supposed to be looking like this. So that confirms the fear. So you need to turn it off. Okay, I do not have a switch here, and I don't want to tamper with the switches because you don't know what the real wiring is. Okay, what the real wiring is made. So that is five buttons. Okay, these ones here, these ones here. Okay, power switch, but you don't know which one. So I don't want to tamper with them much because I'm not sure. There's no map here which shows how they are wired. Okay, but there has to be LEDs for the hard drive, LED for the switch, and the switch connector. So, and they must have shared some connections. So I don't want to tamper with that because I tried with switches. I tried with an external switch LEDs by crossing, and they worked. So if they worked, LEDs worked, which means there is some complication in connection, and it does not have the front panel connector, the auxiliary connector, where you can use external switches, external jumpers, like these ones here. Look like these ones here. Okay, these ones are ones which you can buy on the market. They are well labeled. So everywhere red, everywhere white, everywhere white, meaning the white is the universal or negative something. Okay, and you see this is one for hard disk drive LED, and this one is the what LED, something like negative power LED, negative, and power LED positive. Okay, this one is a switch. It has two connected at the same time, and the same what, and this one power switch connected. So they may sound, but you can go back and see them. So everything wire white, wire white, wire white, which color white? Yes, okay. Okay, red, white, blue, green, green, white, purple, white, yellow, white. So that is how it is indicated. And you will see on the motherboard, some other motherboards, okay, some motherboards, there will be a front panel connector like somewhere here, whereby the pins are indicated how they stand. This is not the one, but I'm just giving you an example. Okay, those pins will be marked. At least there will be a map like somewhere here showing you which pin belongs where. Okay, but now this one you can jumpstart it by sorting some pins together, but how do you know? How sure are you? Unless what I can do is dismantling the keyboard, dismantling the switch, which I'm not ready to do, or the switch is far or something. So I'm not ready to do that right now, so that you know how these switches are connected, which takes a lot, some bit of work. So I'm not ready for that. So it has 3 beep codes. It has, beep codes, two, like I said, 2, 3, and 1. Okay, and we have seen exactly what, it confirms, the physical inspection confirms what really the problem is. So you can see the RAM, it is standing up, and you are supposed to push it here. Okay, you're supposed to push it here, both ways. Okay, you have to be very careful so that you don't crack the board. You have to put something soft enough and not too soft, and not too hard, so that the pins, you might create a crack in the connections by pushing the pins out in front of the board from the bottom. So you have to put something that will hold just enough, good enough to the pins at the bottom to pierce through, to go through, and not to be too hard, so that they push the pins to go through, and not too soft that you will bend the motherboard in the process, creating a crack or cracks. Okay, so you can see the pins. So those pins at the bottom, okay, you can see those pins at the bottom. So they have to be, the board or the cardboard has to be soft enough where they can go through, and not too hard whereby you will push them outside to the front. This is the back and this is the front. Okay, you push them out, pushing them outside to the front, and not too soft like a blanket or a mattress, whereby you will bend this motherboard and create cracks. Sometimes cracks are too tiny, too invisible by your eyes, but the solder will break. The soldering, you understand what the solder is? So the solder will break, and those pins, you might not see them, but they are cracked. There's cracked in the board. So that is it. So this is just for experimentation. You can shape these things the way you can be more creative, and yeah, make them in a better shape, because maybe here I cut too far or too much. Yeah, but it is also good for aeration, so that in case instead of sitting on the component, the capacitor, and overheating and stuff like that, it is creating more air. So it is better to cut more than cutting less. Okay, so that if this capacitor, instead of closing it down here, at least air can pass by here, and they are wide enough for the fan to sit. And it is amazing that this fan is not, it's not just amazing, it is planned that it cannot reach the grease. Okay, and grease, you remember that grease goes through, I mean, liquid something or semi-liquid conducts heat way better than what I mean in general, conducts heat much more efficiently. So it sucks the heat from that heat sink. You see, that thing is not the chip. The chip is inside, but that is a metal. It works as a kind as a heat sink itself. So it is, that metal is to provide cooling to spread the heat. Now it's spreading the heat. It finds the grease, it releases heat into the grease, and this fan here, which is running, this fan sucks the heat from the from the grease. So by applying grease, I used it for like several hours, and the fan could not run. I mean, it could not overspeed, indicating that it is overheating. So it ran perfectly well, just like this throughout. It did not do much things with it. It was just playing music, radio, videos, and stuff like that, opening several windows, but it did not overspeed. It did not speed. So like no, it just ran like that, because if it overheats, this one will accelerate and say like now it is just okay. Normally, yeah, if it overheats, it will accelerate it. You will hear it making noise. Okay, so it's not happening. So you do not need much to make a test bench. It is a bench. The HDMI is connected. The video connect is connected. This is the something. Yeah, this was an external hard drive, which it's not connected, so it's not required. You can even take it off. Yeah, I'm using one hand, so I don't want. You need to use two hands, one to hold. Well, I've made it. I've made it. So the keyboard and the mouse. The keyboard is here, and the mouse is here. Okay, it is here. So the keyboard is not lighting, the mouse is not lighting, indicating that it is not connected. So the connection is number one before you connect to the screen. But you have to turn it off. You have to turn it off. So how do we do? Because the keyboard is not functioning. Even the caps lock. If you press the caps lock, so that it does not light. It does not light. So in the darkness, it doesn't light. Capital A. Is caps lock. It does so it's not functioning. And the number lock AA1 has to light. It is also not functioning. So the keyboard is physically connected, but is not connected in the system. So that is one. Before you consider, do you troubleshoot the screen problem, the connection problem? At least make sure that at least the components that are required, yeah, are well connected. The CPU is connected and it has no problem, has been working well. The RAM is physically out. So the power is on, the 24 pin is connected with its tab. So that is a 24. Some others are 4 pins, some are 6 and some are 8. So, but this is the standard 24 pin power connector, 24 pin motherboard, a main motherboard, power. And this is the 4 pin CPU fan. It is in fact labeled somewhere. It must be labeled somewhere. A fan CPU. They call it fan CPU or CPU fan. Same thing. It's not labeled here, so you can look for it. Maybe it's written somewhere. But that is ATX. Yeah, sometimes they write P1. It's not written anywhere here. Sometimes they write P1, indicating power 1. Even on this connector, I think it is not written there. So P1. So I think it's a standard. As they get more experience, they learn to do, because this is an old board. So they may become more creative and indicate more indications. So it's not here. So I'm gonna turn it off and reconnect it to get the. But oh, I've forgotten the hard drive. The hard drive, well, it's not required because it's supposed to boot at least to BIOS here, and you will know that there's no hard drive or something, because it can even be connected, but because there is no operating system, still it will not show the BIOS. It will not show in the BIOS. Okay, so that is it. Initially, it will not show. So you have to tell the BIOS that it show to click the F1, F2, F5, and the F12 for this Dell. F1, for every computer is somehow different a little bit. So F1, what you need to use in this keyboard in Dell is mostly F1, F2, F5, F12, and escape. F2 and escape. F2 and escape. It helps you. F2 and escape. F2 and escape helps you to turn it and off, to turn it on and off, other than disconnecting the power. Okay, disconnecting the power. So you don't need to disconnect the power. If you press F2, if you press F2, and then even if the screen is not on, you will know what you're doing. F2 and then escape. So it will restart, it will turn off and restart. It will turn off and restart. F2, F2, and escape. F1 meaning reboot. F1, then if it fails, you press F2, and then you'll hear it. The fan will stop and start over. The fan will stop and start over, and the CPU fan. I mean PSU, the power bank, or should we call it the power processor, the power supply unit. So that is a power supply, is a big box. This is, I think, the heaviest component in the world, in the system, in the computer. So this is the heaviest component, that is one. And another heaviest component is the box. Anything else is light. This SSD is a few grams, a few, maybe 100 grams, maybe tens of grams, maybe something like, because it is an SSD. And this motherboard is less than 1 kilogram, or less, something like 2 pounds or less. Okay, they try to use at least a fan, at least one fan, plug it in the wall, because it helps you so much to know the processing. Because one, functioning, meaning the power is connected. Two, if it overspeeds, it shows you that it's functioning and it is overheating, so the speed will increase. Okay, so let's turn it on and reset the RAM. But now, because the keyboard is not functioning, we just have to turn off the power. We just have to turn off the power. And here, I'll just, I have no choice. I have to turn off the power. Okay, so I just have to turn off the power so that I can set the RAM. Okay, so that I can set the RAM. It's not good. This, I'm not considering this power, I mean motherboard, highly, but it's for testing. So I push it down here. I push it down here. Okay, push it down here, holding it underneath with my hands. Okay, at the same time pushing here. Be careful not to hold underneath, because I mean, because your body has electricity, so there's some voltage. These ones some components use very little electricity, like RAM, 1 volt plus something, maybe something like that, 1 point. Not, I don't think there is a RAM which reaches 2 volts. So there are some components which are half volt or something like that. So the electricity that is in your body is so significant. If it interacts, you can short it. But let's go ahead and do the RAM setting the RAM. There you go. So you can see now it is seated. It is seated. So it is seated well. And here, okay. Now we can turn it on. We have no choice but insert the power so softly. Let us do it so softly, because it kind of tends to spark, inside, micro sparks, which is having a big effect. Okay, because these things are so sensitive. So you push it just a little. There you go, connected. Then now we can push it in, and there was no sparking. So there are no beep codes now. Turn on the screen, the TV. keyboard is connected now. Okay, and the mouse is connected. Okay, so caps lock. Let's press caps lock. This is number lock, which means it is activated. Okay, number lock, on, off, caps lock. This button, capitals lock, not capital letters, on, off. So that is the best way to diagnose the keyboard if it is connected. Capital lock, caps on or off, or number lock, on or off. Okay, and here, turn on the TV. HDMI 1. No signal. Let's turn it off by pressing F2 so that it turns off. F2 and then escape. Sometimes, yes, press S2 and escape. It will gonna restart. It's gonna restart. You see, when it accelerates, that's how the fan sounds. You can hear how the fan works. I mean, how the fan accelerates. Now you also have to work on the motherboard and tell it that HDMI 1. In fact, you have to confirm that on the TV it is HDMI 1 that is connected. Okay, you can put it to a HDMI 1 so that, because the TV itself has a processor, this is not a monitor. It has a processor that connects it, that controls it, the controller that connects the peripherals that you have connected. Okay, HDMI 1. Okay, it will start retrieving data. So it is connecting this. So the TV, I think also it has an effect using the TV, not using the real monitor. So let's see if it will connect. It's like not. Maybe it is in the connection, the HDMI, but there are no beeps. We don't hear any beeps. So the machine is working well, and when we press F2, it responds, turns off. F1, it turns off, which means it is functioning. Now the problem is with connections. So we can take it out. I cleaned it, and you can reconnect it. Take it out and reconnect it.